So I'm Kat Wildman. I am the Director of Product here at the Telegraph, and I'm delighted to be speaking to you today about making disruption pay, because that is something that we're doing on a daily basis here at the Telegraph, and we're trying to disrupt the publisher model time and time again, because there's so many changes that hit us from all sides. So publishers have always had wave after wave of disruption hitting us, and in particular news. So if you think about when news started, it got disrupted by radio, and then TV, and then most recently the internet. And when we launched in 1855, if you think how that editorial team would feel just 139 years later, when we were the first UK publisher to launch a website at all. And that is a relatively short period of time. And ever since then, somewhere along the way, as the Telegraph, we decided to be fearless in the face of disruption, and that was what we did. So we decided to be first on these new platforms as they emerged. And someone in this building, and who isn't here, so let's pretend it was me, I came up with this great analogy of, who knows what this building is? Yes. So someone came up with the analogy of the Telegraph being like the British Museum. So it's a historical landmark, and it's British, it stands for intelligence. When you go in there, you know that you're going to learn something. And when you do go in and you walk into the Great Court and you see Norman Foster's amazing glass roof, you're surprised and delighted, and it's light and it's modern, and that structure could only have been built with the help of computers and with digital, and it's that foil, that meeting of the old and new, that rings so true to us as a brand. So not long after the launch of our website in 1994, content was so vast online that it was actually becoming a commodity. And the way that we decided to deal with this is by being fearless and making sure that we were there wherever our customers were, so wherever that may be, on all of these platforms. Now, being fearless doesn't necessarily mean being reckless. So we were launched partners for the iPhone in 2007. We launched our iPad in 2011. We were launch partners with Windows 8. We were launch partners with Kindle. And we were launched, this is our general MO, but being fearless doesn't mean being reckless, and we're not afraid to pull back off something if it's not working. So every time we launch on a new platform, we're brave and we get out there and we give it our best shot. But if it's not working, because we've launched lean with our minimum viable and we're monitoring very closely, we're not afraid to pull back. And sometimes being fearless does mean pulling off platforms when they're not working. So this is our product set shaped by disruption. So as you can see, our flagship products here, the newspapers, the magazines, our website, our iPad products, smartphone, and then when we've branched out and diversified into events, social media comes along, and we're actually now speaking to customers through, this is our age group that we speak to, we're speaking to customers from the age of 11 on our education product, Gojibo. So every day at the Telegraph we publish 225 articles, and that's a mixture of things like videos, blog posts, podcasts, pop-up content, and renewing our evergreen content. So when you think about the renewals as well as the new articles, that's over 400 pieces of content that we do every single day. So with that vast age range, that all those demographics that we're talking to, and all those different platforms and all those different products and the ways that people use those products, so desktop is you might look at us during the day, during lunchtime, smartphone is a snackable experience, and then all the way down to Snapchat and Gojimo. Our mission is to try and get as close to publishing once, but publishing on all those platforms as we possibly can. And obviously that's impossible. So the way that we do this is to prioritize what we do. So we get quite close. So we've tiered our products into the way that we manage them. So we've got to be sensible about how we manage them. So obviously we could excel and fly on every single platform, but we'd be spending tons of money and we might not be getting the return back. So what we do is we treat Snapchat and Apple News as tier 1 products in their own right that have very, very huge amounts of value for us, but they're such different values. So if you think about Apple News, it's a great source of subscriptions, whereas Snapchat is a great way to reach this brand new audience that we'd never reached before. We're investing in Instagram and YouTube to make sure that we're making the most of everything those platforms have to offer and all the changes that they're dishing out on what feels like a daily basis sometimes. And then everything else, we're optimizing and we're learning. So every time they change something, we respond to it. Our customers and how they use those platforms are evolving all the time, so we have to be agile enough to respond to those things, but also be sensible enough to not respond as well. So with all of that effort and all of those platforms, what does it actually give us? So as well as our loyal Heartland audience who are there all the time, something that may surprise you is that we actually get to, because of all that work, speak to 74% of 15 to 24-year-olds, which for us is fantastic, and we've learned an absolute ton. So who is surprised by this age split when you think about the Telegraph? I was surprised too. So with all that scale and with all the digital success came the success of digital advertising. And when the digital advertising market was disrupted early last year, we had to really, really quickly evolve ourselves very, very fast. So a lot of publishers had come to rely on that digital advertising revenue, and we kind of got quite comfortable with it. And we expected it to come, but we expected it to be a longer tail thing, so we were gearing up our diversification strategy. And then when it kind of fell away, we had to really, really quickly diversify. And the very first step of doing that is from moving from this scale on which we all relied to trying to identify people really, really fast and going for identified, engaged people as opposed to just scale for scale's sake. So from this came our vision. So our vision is to pioneer new ways to serve 10 million registered users. And crucially, that is using our quality journalism by bringing them experiences and also by creating this sense of community, so bringing them closer to each other and to us as well. So our product strategy off the bottom of that vision is to attract, engage, identify, and then treat these customers like VIPs so they want to stay around. So it's not just disruption that faces publishers, disruption also hits social media and the third-party platforms as well. So we take advantage of that too. So we can make disruption to those platforms pay for us as well. So last year when this whole thing about fake news emerged and it became a thing, we were obviously laughing into our sleeves because that works for us. As the UK's #1 quality news publisher, we're thinking fake news, awesome. We do not deal in fake news. So we kind of like drew together and we're thinking, right, how can we incorporate this into our 2018 strategy with everything that we know? We need to identify people, we need to bring them closer to each other. And in doing that, we went all the way back to our roots. So what is our quality journalism? Where did it come from? And our newspaper is our flagship store. It's our Bond Street store. It's our reason for being, and it gives us the authority to set the news agenda in the way that we do. And if you think of Bryony Gordon, she never would have got her interview with Prince Harry where he's talking so openly about his mental health issues had it not been for our newspaper. So we've really got that quality news at the heart of our strategy, and our editor came up with this analogy of the sun. So our quality journalism is the sun, and everything else, me, the technology team, our commerce team, our advertising team, and everything else are just planets orbiting around that quality journalism. And that's something that actually, working in digital, it's quite easy to forget the newspaper sometimes. And you know, they're sitting down there on the editorial floor getting it out every single day, 32-page book. And we're upstairs, you know, putting it all online, putting it on Snapchat, thinking this is great, digital's the future. But actually, if it wasn't for those guys, we wouldn't exist. So we've got to be true to our core. So in 1855, they still were thinking about engaging their customers. So one of our pillars of our strategy is to engage them and bring them close to each other and us. And they were doing that back then. So it was in the form of letters to the editor. That was our user-generated content. So the very first letter to the editor in 1855 was from a guy who earned 4p a day, and the Telegraph cost 2p a day, so he thought it was too expensive and he wanted a price reduction. And the second ever letter to the editor was from a guy campaigning for longer pub opening hours. So some things never change. But some things do change, and that is that now our journalists can talk back to the customers who want to engage with them, and they can start a conversation and join the debate, or start a debate and watch it all unfold, but then they have to join back in again. And that was exciting and terrifying to them in equal measure. But the results we've seen when our journalists engage with our customers, and then the feeling of that journalist who wrote the article that I commented on has also commented back to me, it's yielded amazing results. So this was our MVP of user-generated content and bringing our journalists closer to the customers, and it's really paid off. So another thing that our dear old third-party platforms have made de rigueur these days, the likes of Facebook, is single sign-on. So obviously you expect single sign-on, and you should have single sign-on. I do, I expect it all the time. But when you think about a publisher who's been going for as long as we have online, and you think about the literally hundreds of commerce and commercial and fulfillment partners that we have who require a separate sign-on, it's no mean feat. So this is something that we're plugging through. Another thing that's just expected is customization. And so this goes to our strategy. Yes, I do want those. This goes to our strategy, so it's something that disruption has caused everybody in the audience to expect. When you go somewhere and you give your details, then you use those details to give me things that I want. I expect it all the time, and so do you guys. And what we found is that people will willingly give us their details, but we have got to use those and give them something back pretty much straight away, so they know that we're listening to them, and we're looking at what they're reading and what they're saving and what they're following, and we're giving them more of it. And the other thing that we can do to create this feeling of VIPs is what we're uniquely positioned as a Telegraph to do is to offer them special money can't buy experiences that we're in the position to give them. So things like a tour around the House of Commons from our politicos who work in the lobby every day and know all the people, or tickets to a premiere, or a tour around the new Prada collection by the designers. So that's the sort of thing that we're looking to do to really make them feel special, and something that it's a Telegraph special thing, not a special thing that anybody could give to them. So I'll just give you a whistle-stop tour from some of the disruptors that we're facing today and how we've used them to make them pay. So Apple News is now a product and not a platform. It's very, very valuable to us. When we launched back in 2016 on Apple News, we didn't know what was going to happen. And we launched and we tried lots of things, and we worked very closely with them and their editorial team, and that's what we do now. So we work closely with them, we write special content for them, and we've got a very steady stream of subscriptions coming from that platform. The second one, so put your hand up if you knew we were on Snapchat. You look like the Snapchat core demographic. I don't understand what's going on. So Snapchat, a surprising move maybe for the Telegraph, and something that we agonized over a little bit, and like maybe a little bit freaked out over as well when we thought about what we're going to do. So things that we were worried about was trying to be cool, and obviously not being cool, and ending up like a dad at the disco, and the younger demographic laughing at us, or dumbing down. So we didn't want to do either of those things. So what we did was we researched this loads. So I went out and met 15 to 17-year-olds and asked them what they wanted and spoke to them. And actually they're massively activist, and they really care about politics, and they don't want a dumbed down version, and they definitely don't want us to try and be cool, because I did not understand half of I said, tell me some cool stuff. And they said, YouTube. And I was like, YouTube? That's for like, how do you change the time and stuff? Like, no, you spend the whole summer holidays on YouTube. So we didn't want to do that. So what we decided to do was be true to ourselves and just launch and get out there as the Telegraph, and they loved it. So we literally have millions of subscribers on Snapchat just from being ourselves, which was incredibly heartening for me, but also heartening for our newsroom. So they had the confidence to go, yeah, they love what we're doing. It doesn't matter what the demographic. And oh, there was an animation there. And finally, audio. So this was a huge leap of faith for us. And when we were approached by Amazon to be launch partners on the Alexa, again, we didn't know what we'd do. So we went through the whole, are we a broadcaster? Do we do a podcast? What sort of content do people want to listen to? And they kind of weren't that much help, because they didn't really know either. So they were like, here's a platform, you're a publisher, go play, make something. So we did, and it was kind of good because it was an experimental platform, and we could be a bit experimental as well. No one expected us to make any money off it straight away, and so we did, and we've launched and we've learned, and it was a huge challenge for us in a UX perspective, because if you think about, you can't see anything, there's nothing written down, there's no pictures, there's no words. So what does the Telegraph sound like? Does it sound like, a 50-something-year-old man in corduroy trousers, or does it sound like a young woman from Manchester just saying, I'm available? So this is something that we're still working out, and it's a very good challenge. So we're trying to be more conversational, but then we don't know if we're meant to be jokey or authoritative. So yeah, we're experimenting with this even now. So if you have an Alexa at home, please download our flash briefing and then send me an email or a tweet to let me know what you think about it. So that's me. I'd like to thank you for listening, and if you have enjoyed this, then send us a tweet or tweet Telegraph Engineering, and yeah, keep disrupting.